A U.S. officer was peeing in the Yalu River. The reporter took a photo of him. He believed that if he could cross the Yalu River, this photo would be his military medal. But what he didn't know was that the advanced troops had already infiltrated the Chinese volunteers' encirclement. It turned out that since the U.S. military intervened in the Korean War, Chairman Mao immediately sent Peng Dehuai to command the army to cross the Yalu River and use the victory of the anti-American regime to protect his country. But just before the army crossed the Yalu River, Peng Dehuai, who was the commander-in-chief, suddenly decided to take the lead. Because the news came from the front line that Pyongyang had fallen, the top leader of the front line was also missing. He was worried that the U.S. military would advance and that the Chinese military would no longer have a chance to cross the Yalu River. Peng Dehuai not only took the time to cross the Yalu River in advance but also took 2 security guards on his first radio car to cross the Yalu River. It was obvious that the war was about to start, but there was a message from the logistics department that the telephone line had not been connected. How can this be connected to the headquarters? The commander-in-chief shouted, and the soldiers who were quick-witted went to the headquarters to report. How can 2 legs run through 4 colonies? The soldiers who did not wait for the message arrived, and the enemy artillery troops broke into the command post. Fortunately, the command of the front line was received, and the enemy's reinforcements were quickly cut off. But at this time, there was only one communication soldier in the command post. He could not stop the enemy's artillery troops at all. The commander-in-chief did not care about his own safety but had to fight. The communication line commander stopped him. At this critical moment, the commander-in-chief was their main force. There must be no accident. The commander-in-chief rushed to the front line. The soldiers were full of energy, and the enemy was about to turn the gun barrel. The commander-in-chief hurried to the soldiers to get the snipers nearby. In order to cover the soldiers' advance, the commander-in-chief was shot by a number of guns. The soldiers brought the snipers, but he didn't use them at all. The enemy was coming. The commander-in-chief held his last breath and picked up the snipers in his hands. In the end, the commander-in-chief died. But under the command of the entire communication line, the reinforcements soon arrived at the battlefield. They used air-to-ground grenades to teach these arrogant artillery troops a lesson. The American troops in the rear heard the news of the front line being locked up and immediately turned around and retreated. Until then, the 354 Regiment won the first victory of the Korean War, and the communication card to fight the enemy also became the first batch of sacrificed soldiers. If you ask who is the son of Chairman Mao Zedong and Ynanping, I think 90% of people will say Mao Anying. Because he was the first volunteer soldier to sign up for the Korean War. The Korean War broke out, and there were a shortage of talents in the command of the volunteer army. Mao Anying saw that the command was short of Russian translation, so she voluntarily signed up. Tell my father that he is 28 years old and he went to Shanghai to do great things. Mr. Peng, anyone can show up. You can't. You are destined to be eliminated. You are the commander-in-chief of the volunteer army. It is your duty to protect the president and the prime minister. You are right. I am the commander-in-chief of the volunteer army. Who can replace me? I will see how to understand the situation ahead, how to command the battle, and how to be responsible for the safety of the Jishuan troops. Mr. Peng. Stop talking. Fire. The commander-in-chief insisted on taking risks. When Chairman Mao, who was far away in Beijing, heard about it, the front line had already sent the news that Commander Peng was missing. If I kill him, it will be great. I must find him back. In order to find the commander-in-chief, the soldiers who followed him disguised as North Korean soldiers wandered around the battlefield. Looking at the North Korean territory full of smoke and the unbearable people, the soldiers were even more determined to stop the spread of the war. Fortunately, it was not dangerous. The soldiers soon found Commander Peng in the North Korean cave. They got in touch with the troops again. Mr. Peng did not dare to delay for a moment. Soon, according to the intelligence provided by North Korea, the troops were deployed. In the middle of Beijing, there was also a message from Chairman Mao. Tell Mr. Peng that he must be the first to land. At this time, the U.S. military had not yet noticed the danger. Everyone was proud. The advanced troops soon broke into the encirclement of the 354th Regiment of our army. The sound of gunfire and the death of his comrade in arms became his nightmare. The mission changed frequently during the war. Not long after, the command was exposed under the enemy's bombing. Just when everyone was retreating to the air-to-ground, Secretary Liu suddenly found a confidential file in the command. But just when he was about to leave, a gas bomb fell from the sky. The fire spread in an instant. Secretary Liu was devoured by the fire snake. He sacrificed himself. The great life was forever determined at the age of 28. Secretary Liu's sacrifice made the whole army sad. That evening, General Ting issued the second batch of offensive orders and beat the U.S. Army and the South Korean U.S. Army to the ground. It's hard to walk. We've only been here for 14 hours. We don't know if we can make it in time. But maybe it depends on the distance. So what? The 38th Army is a disgrace. Is the 11th Army a disgrace? No. So this time we have to get there on time. The U.S. Army, which has to run at full speed with 2 legs, is a limitless challenge. Besides, the U.S. Army is only 60 kilometers away. This doesn't seem to be a fated failure. But for the sake of blood, the U.S. Army still made it through this tough time war. When they retreated from the Dechuan battlefield, many soldiers couldn't even run. They continued to run with heavy and tired steps. Their physical honor and glory were their only beliefs. On this road, some people fell and were injured, but no one gave up. The U.S. Army has run to their death. We must take a break. The U.S. Army is a disgrace. The U.S. Army is a disgrace. If you can't save yourself, you can't save your family. If you can't save yourself, you can't save your family. Keep running. The U.S. Army maintained a wireless radio throughout the whole process of the march. Unexpectedly, this mistake not only avoided the U.S. Army, but also lost contact with the headquarters. You should know that if there is any accident in the U.S. Army stronghold, it may affect the entire 38th Army, and even involve the entire Western Line. Although 38th Army Commander Liang Qingchu was worried about the whereabouts of the troops, he had confidence in his own army. I believe in Jiang Chao and 113 Division. You're right. I have no reason not to believe him. After a night of interrogation, 113 Division was only 10 kilometers away from the destination, and the enemy patrol plane was hovering over their heads. It didn't take long before the whole team's actions were exposed to the eyes of the U.S. military. The commander, Jiang Chao, was worried that the enemy would continue to bomb him, so he ordered the soldiers to change into the American uniform. They pretended to be the enemy and walked forward. When the American reconnaissance plane passed by, he waved to them. Such a move really fooled the American reconnaissance plane. When 113 Division arrived at the destination, the U.S. military was still cooking. The U.S. military, which was hard to escape, obviously hadn't arrived yet. If you don't listen to me, let the 3 guys in front of you stop the U.S. military. Yes. 113 Division's analysis was successful. It blocked the news that the U.S. military was hard to escape. It was quickly sent back to the command. Commander Peng was delighted. This magical team stopped the war and created a new military system in human history. No one has broken it so far.